Hello, you are with me, the voice of ability owner for persons with disability. United Nations statistics estimate that over 600 million people live with disability globally, and over 400 million people live with disability in Africa. 40% of Africa's population are made up of people living with disability. 10 to 15% of school-age children in Africa live with disability. Ghana's population is over 32 million, and 8% are people living with disability. How does this impact on persons with disability in terms of policy formulation, marriage and family life, education, healthcare, employment, and so on? For those of us in the disability community, discrimination and stigmatization is the root cause of almost every challenge we face. However, success only comes to those who know how to overcome their challenges and not those who know how to avoid challenges. So join me, the voice of ability and for persons with disability, as I navigate my way through the riveting stories, the unbelievable experiences, and the life-transforming journeys of persons with disability on the Helping Hand TV show.
To the best father ever, Bishop Dr. Charles C. Hackman. What a great wonder. We love you forever. Happy birthday to you. You're a good father. Happy birthday to you. May God bless you and keep you. God bless you. We celebrate you today. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Bishop Hackman, once more. It's always a privilege to wish you a happy birthday because you've been a big inspiration to the disability community over the years. If you'd ask me, I'll say there are two types of people in this life. Those who live for themselves and those who live for others. And you've been a great example of those who live to make the lives of others better. You've touched so many lives with the H4P Organization and for the many interventions you put through. We are grateful. We say thank you very much. And our biggest prayer is that may the Lord keep you safe. May the Lord prosper the works of your hands. And may you live in health so that we can celebrate many more birthdays as the year goes by. Happy birthday, sir. Bye.
To the best father ever, Bishop Dr. Charles C. Hackman. What a great wonder. We love you forever. Happy birthday to you. You're a good father. Happy birthday to you. May God bless you and keep you. God bless you. We celebrate you today.
Hello and welcome to another exciting and inspirational edition of the Helping Hand TV show, where we seek to throw the spotlight on the abilities of persons with disability. And like I say, you are welcome to my world where disability is not inability. Special thanks to DV Unlimited Company Limited and Fast Chapel, my proud sponsors. Today's episode continues from last week. We've been having an interesting, educative and inspirational talk and chat with my very good friend Stephen Jethro Piri, all the way from Zambia. I'm going to continue the interview today. I'll go for a quick commercial break. When I come back, the interview continues. Enjoy it.
We'll be right back.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. You are with me, the voice of ability on the air for persons with disability. And today I want to introduce you to someone with so much ability. Some people call her the greatest friend. Others call her the sweet companion. And others still call her the faithful worker. She is dependable, reliable, and adorable. And she's committed to lending you a helping hand anytime, anywhere. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome DV Cleaners.
DV Cleaners Alata Samuna Shower Gels, DV Cleaners Aloe Vera Shower Gels, DV Cleaners Body Lotions, DV Cleaners Hair Shampoos, DV Cleaners Hair Conditioners, DV Cleaners Liquid Detergents, DV Cleaners Hand Wash, DV Cleaners Floor Cleaners, DV Cleaners Toilet Cleaners, DV Cleaners Cake Soaps, and now introducing DV Cleaners hand sanitizers. For bulk purchase, call us on +233 278 308 246 or +233 244 467 326. DV Cleaners, one of the topmost made in Ghana products. DV Cleaners, proudly Ghanaian.
And so remember that anytime you purchase any of the DV Cleaners range of products, you are lending a helping hand to a person with disability, and you are supporting H4P Organization's special advocacy for persons with disability. DV Cleaners.
Nature's finest touch.
Welcome back.
Previously on the Helping Hand TV show.
If a child is born with a disability, usually the father, the male parent runs away.
Yeah.
Us men run away. And so because of that, there are a lot of human rights that are violated for this child. When a child with albinism has been attacked in an area, they are forced to leave that place. There is internal displacement that we see.
What are some of the reasons why they will be attacked?
So the basis for the attack mainly is that if you use a body part or hair of a person with albinism, you are going to get wealthy. So we've seen people who have a mother, a father, but because the father ran away, after the attack, we've seen children being placed in orphanages.
Okay.
You can imagine. So you are being placed in an orphanage when your parents are still alive.
So are there situations where maybe a man runs away from a family, his wife, because the woman has given birth to a person with disability or child with disability? Are there situations where the man can be arrested and actually brought to book?
Currently in Zambia, there's, I think to the best of my knowledge, there's none that I've seen who has been arrested because they ran away from their wife. I think that is one of the things that we are trying to look at as our organization. We want to see to it that our parents become responsible to these children, be it even when you talk of GBV against persons with disabilities. I'll give a very good example. There are moments where persons with disabilities, especially those with mental disabilities, their family members that take advantage of them, have intercourse with them.
Yeah.
So what happens now is we've had some radio programs where we are telling communities if a family has this issue, because what happens is they begin to hide the perpetrator.
Yeah.
Because those that perpetrate, those that are found in these situations are actually close relatives.
Yeah.
So now they begin to look at, if we have this uncle arrested, who is going to take care of us here?
Yeah.
So they begin to hide those issues within themselves. So we've been going out on radio and in communities, trying to encourage them, trying to tell them, if this situation is found, you all be found wanting. If this situation happens, if a child or a person with a mental disability is being taken advantage of, please report and you are going to find support.
Stephen, let me find out from you. Are there statistics? Do you have a data of children that are born with disability? I'm looking at this in terms of ensuring that education becomes a fundamental human right for the child. With your organization having the issue of the presence of the child, having the issue of the participation of the child, and then the achievement of the child. If you don't have data on children that are born with disability, how do you ensure that?
So currently, I must make mention to say we do not have reliable data on disability in general currently. And that is one of the things that we've been trying to advocate for. And in the previous census that we just had, I think these are some of the issues that we've been discussing to say we need to capture disability. So in all these other meetings that we usually have, we want to capture how many males are persons with disabilities, how many females are persons with disabilities, then how many of these are below 35 years old. So we want to disaggregate data like that, and how many persons with what type of a disability do these people have. So we've developed a data collection tool or an attendance sheet for some sort, where we want to capture the disability type, because I think we've had issues with programming, because we do not have proper numbers in our work plan. for this year is to have engagement meetings with the Zambia Demographic Survey or institutes who are going to give us data that they have from the census. We want to know how many people with disabilities are there in such an area and in such an area, so that we be able to plan around swiftly.
Stephen, let's look at this major human rights abuse, this thing that has to do with discrimination. It runs across virtually every sector. Discrimination when it comes to even in church. I have to talk about my people. Even in church, we discriminate against persons with disability. In school, when people use derogatory words against persons with disability, that's a human rights abuse. How is the situation like in Zambia, and how are you handling the community, the society, preventing people from using derogatory words against persons with disability?
Thank you so much, Bishop. So to talk about derogatory language or terminologies against persons with disabilities, I think this is also one of the major problems that we have in Zambia, not only to the communities, but also even to the learned, to the so-called learned individuals.
Yeah.
You realize that we have journalists that report or that have a passion to report or mean well to report on disability issues, but the terminologies they use to report on disability issues actually are derogatory. So we do have disability terminologies, and under our organization's effort, we usually have sessions in almost all the workshops that we have. We have a session that we've called Understanding Disability.
Yeah.
So under this session, Understanding Disability, we have a part where we now begin to mention disabilities from what the community knows to what the community do not know. But first and foremost, what we are promoting in the disability movement is the language we are calling person first type of language, where you see the person first before you see the disability. Exactly. That's why we say persons with a disability and not a disabled person, meaning you've considered disability first before you consider the person. So the person first type of language is what we are advocating for, and that is what we've been preaching even to the masses. But maybe just to also mention the challenge, one of the challenges that we usually have. Remember, I said we've got about 72 tribes in Zambia, meaning 72 different languages. People addressing persons with disabilities differently. So for us to now attach each word correctly for each language or tribe, that has been a challenge. So what we do is in situations where we are teaching people on how to address persons with disabilities, first thing first that we tell them is address them by their name. They are human and they have a name. So call them by their name. So you realize that sometimes people will do it in an attempt to pity with the person with a disability. So they'll try to mix up words, terminologies, especially in English. You said differently abled. No, they are not differently abled. They are persons with disabilities. Because even those without disabilities, they are differently abled. Others can sing, others cannot sing. Others are pastors, others are apostles, others are prophets. Differently abled, they've got different abilities. So just address them by their name. If you don't know them by their name, call them persons with disabilities. It ends there. Don't mix up things. It's as simple as that.
Very, very good. So let's jump to another big issue in the disability community, the issue of accessibility. Now, in Ghana here, we've had a 10-year moratorium where public buildings, government buildings are supposed to be modified so that persons with disability would have access to it. And the 10 years is past. And there are even some government buildings that are still not accessible to persons with disability. I don't know the situation in Zambia. If you can walk us through the situation in Zambia and how the organization and the government is seeking to make accessibility really accessible to persons with disability.
Thank you so much, Bishop, again and again. So talking of accessibility, really accessibility is a very key issue in disability inclusion. If we are going to see persons with disability present in an area or participate in an area, they must be an issue of accessibility that has been addressed.
Yeah.
So when you discuss accessibility, I'm going to make mention that there are two concepts that we usually discuss each time you discuss accessibility.
Okay.
Number one is the concept of universal design. Okay. So the concept of universal design speaks to a situation where before any structure is put up, they should be designed in a manner that is accessible to all persons with disabilities. Before it is approved by the council or whichever ministry or institution is in charge of approving these building plans,
okay,
it should be accessible from inception. The other concept is a concept of reasonable accommodation.
Okay.
So when you speak to reasonable accommodation, you're simply bringing in the aspect. Obviously, we understand there are buildings that were built a long time ago.
Yeah.
And they are not accessible. And the truth of the matter is we cannot tell the government to break that building and construct a new one.
That's
just
true.
To accommodate disability. That is not being reasonable.
Yeah.
So when you speak to reasonable accommodation, what then do we mean? We mean, let us modify these structures where possible. For example, if a person with a disability has been employed and their office is situated at the 3rd floor and there is no elevator, there are steps. Yeah. In reasonable accommodation, what we mean then is you need to shift their office from the 3rd floor to the 1st floor.
Great.
Where they'll be able to access it. That is what we mean when we speak to reasonable accommodation. Then one concept, so these are the two concepts. But what we need to understand again is for us to achieve accessibility, let us make the communities own the projects. Okay. Let us make the communities be part of this development. If we are going to come as an organization, walk into an area, build or construct a ramp for them and leave that area, the community will neglect that. The community may not be part and parcel. The community may not even use that ramp. Yeah. What then should we do? Bring the communities on board, share with them what disability is, make them understand what it means, universal design, what reasonable accommodation means, and charge them. For example, if all these participants that are in a meeting, if they can bring 1 gallon of maize, another 1 gallon of maize, they put their gallons together. How much is a pocket of cement? How many pockets of cement are needed? Let the communities begin to perform, begin to participate. Let them do it. Yeah. Then they are going to own that project. I usually pose a question myself each time I'm speaking to participants in terms of accessibility. Right now, if you and me are to be given wheelchairs, how easy is it for you to navigate your own bedroom? Yeah. If you were to be on a wheelchair right now, how easy is it for you to navigate your own bedroom? You realize that people, because they have income, proper resources, they've constructed this upstairs house, very beautiful house. But if there to be a person with a disability because of stroke, their child will pass an exam, they'll be so excited, their high blood pressure shoots, a blood vessel ruptures, they end up being in a wheelchair because of stroke. They cannot access a bedroom that is on the 2nd floor. Yeah. What do? You can imagine failing to access your own house. So usually I challenge people to say, after I do this accessibility issue, what you need to do is to examine yourself. How accessible is my home? How accessible is the place where I'm coming from? So those are some of the issues. The talk of accessibility, the concept of universal design, the concept of reasonable accommodation, as well as us trying to examine ourselves. How easy is it for me to access my own apartment and ensure that people understand that disability can happen anytime to anyone at any point.
Thank you very much, Stephen. I'll go for a break. When we come back, you keep mentioning the issue about political participation and all that. I have a question on that. So we'll go for a break. When we come back, I would ask my guest exactly how far can we push the issue of political participation for persons with disability. It's a Helping Hand TV show. We'll go for a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
We'll be right back.
Success is a product of hard and wise work. Here's 60-second success with the Bishop. Stay tuned.
Hello and welcome to 60-second success with the Bishop. Today I want to talk to you about the importance of taking risks, calculated risks. Life is a journey, my friend, a journey that is full of risks. And you have to decide to take calculated risks because it is those who have the audacity to face their fears and take risks who become successful. Life is not always smooth. Life oftentimes is a curved path of turbulence, and it demands a lot of diligence so that it can lead to a life of success. Successful people know that in the journey of life, there are times of rain and there are times of sunshine. It is ordinary people who rest because of the rains, but successful people work and they take risks because of the rains. Great success only comes to those who are bold enough to take great calculated risks. Thank you.
Welcome back.
Hello and welcome back to the Helping Hand TV show. With me, the voice of ability and for persons with disability. This is the special edition. Remember, H4P is 12 years old. We've been doing this for the past 12 years. To God be the glory. And I have my very good friend, Stephen Jethro Piri, all the way from Zambia. I know you are enjoying him. We'll still have some more questions for him and then we'll finally release him, reluctantly release him. Stephen, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
Stephen, one of the things you kept mentioning has to do with your work with the participation of persons with disability in the issue of politics. I want to pick it from a certain angle. What are the chances? How open are the political procedures? For instance, in Ghana, we are advocating that political parties should they should reserve some seats for persons with disabilities to contest in parliament, in the constituencies and all that. Presidential candidates, we've not gotten there yet in Ghana, where we would have certain reserves made for persons with disability. I don't know the situation in Zambia and what the organization is doing to motivate political parties to make certain important roles reserved for persons with disability and not just leave any other role that they'll say that, oh, this one we can do away with and all that. What are some of the things you and your organization you are doing?
Thank you so much for that question. So like I said, with different partners, we've been working on different projects. And so to talk about political participation, we've been working with the National Democratic Institute.
Okay.
That is the organization or the partner that has been supporting us in terms of advocating for the participation of persons with disabilities in the electoral process.
Okay.
So not only have we been speaking about political participation of persons with disabilities in the electoral process, but we've been working jointly with two other organizations. We formed a coalition.
Okay.
And we've been working with SILA. SILA stands for Center for Young Leaders in Africa.
Okay.
And then we also have Zambia National Women's Lobby. So we've realized that since time immemorial, the presence of women, youths, and persons with disabilities in key decision-making positions has not been there. And so when we sat, we engaged with different consultants and we realized that, remember I talked about the constitutional review that we did?
Yeah.
So we engaged a consultant to help because we've been talking about we want youth to be in parliament. We want women to be in parliament. But until now, the numbers are not really favorable. Yeah. We do not have significant numbers of youths, persons with disabilities, as well as women in parliament. So what is it then? Where is the problem? That is a question we were asking ourselves. And so what we did is we tried to review our constitution as well as the Electoral Process Act.
Okay.
So that we get to understand the procedures in the constitution and the procedures in the Electoral Act and identify the gaps that exist. So there are a number of gaps that we really identified. And therefore, after identifying those gaps, we realize that currently in Zambia, we are using what we call first past the post electoral system. 50 plus 1. You get 50 plus 1 votes, you're good to become a leader. That is what we are using. But for you to get the 50 plus 1, it means you must have carried out your campaigns intensely. You must have used a lot of resources. You must have, filed in proper amounts of money for you to file in. But the question is, how feasible is it for a youth to actually raise those amounts of money? How feasible is it for a person with a disability to come and contest as a member of parliament? How feasible is it for a woman to come and contest? Remember, you're talking about a husband running away from a wife. Maybe they are not actually working because culturally we've grown to learn that the wife's a woman's position is in the kitchen and not in key decision-making positions. So how easy is it for them to raise the monies to campaign in those electoral or political processes? So what we realized is that the electoral system as a whole here that we are using in Zambia is not supportive to ensure that persons with disabilities, youths, as well as women are participating in the political processes. Therefore, we are advocating for what we are calling the mixed member electoral system, where we are not going to change the first past the post, but we are going to combine it with proportional representation so that we can have equal representation of women, youths, and persons with disabilities. So that is the approach that we are having. Those are some of the things that we are actually working towards as the Zambia Federation of Disability Organizations, so that we ensure that working together with the Zambia National Women's Lobby, who bring in the women aspect, SILA bringing in the youth aspect, and ZAFOD bringing in the persons with disability aspect, we can now work together and see that persons with disabilities, women and youths are being part of the electoral process. And one interesting thing is that we've shared this, we've had these discussions with other members of parliament, and members of parliament are actually buying into the idea. So we've not just sat with this idea on our tables, but we've brought it out to members of parliament. So like I said, we have a paper that we are supposed to write. We're going to submit actually to parliament so that they can sit, look at it, review, and then get to understand some of these things. But also suffice to mention that remember in Africa, right now we are using the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And it is from this document that we are basing our disability acts or documents that we are using in our countries.
National,
What is happening is that there are some concepts of disability, the African aspect of disability, that is not highlighted in the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. So on the other hand, we are also advocating for our government to ratify the African Disability Protocol, which adds the African flavor to the UNCRPD, so that the issues of witchcraft can be addressed. Because you talk of UN won't discuss witchcraft. For them, witchcraft is something they do not understand. So we want to bring the African taste to the disability movement.
I think that is a very insightful point. I would take you on that maybe at another time, because we have to really sit and discuss the African angle to this whole thing. Thank you so much. I'll go for a quick commercial break. When I come back, I would ask my guests about another very thorny issue that has to do with disability and love relationships and marriage relationships. How culturally and societally we don't allow such partnerships. But we'll go for a break first. When I come back, I'd ask my guest, and he would definitely help us to unravel the issues. It's a Helping Hand TV show. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
We'll be right back.
Is the music segment on the Helping Hand TV show.
Mama Yeshira Ejo Nyamie O Nyame wo fata Aye Mama Yeshira Ejo Nyamie O Nyame wo fata
Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back to the Helping Hand TV show with me, the voice of ability for persons with disability. This is the special edition. Remember, H4P is 12 years old. To God be the glory. As part of the new things we are doing, we are looking at inclusiveness. Everything we are doing, throwing the spotlight on the abilities of persons with disability. And today, my very good friend Stephen Jethro Piri, all the way from Zambia, is helping us to understand the disability situation, not only in Zambia, but also across Africa, so that we proffer solutions and suggestions so that policymakers who are watching would have something to work with, so that we can move the disability movement forward, so that we have a better Africa for posterity. Stephen, thank you so much again for your time.
You're welcome.
I want us to look at this thorny issue about love relationships, marriages. Here in Ghana, it's a thorny issue, and I know other places in Africa too, with people I've spoken to. I don't know the situation in Zambia, but a family would oppose their child marrying somebody with a disability because they don't want to bring the cares into the family. Some people even say that when you marry somebody with disability, all your children are going to have disability. All these mysteries, all these myths. What do you say to that, and what are some of the solutions or suggestions you give to that?
Wow, thank you so much, Bishop. So to help address or respond to that question, so as the Zambia Federation of Disability Organizations, again through a different partner, Cheshire Homes, what we've done is that we have a project that we are calling it's a Mekwe project, called Sexual Reproductive Health Rights. So it is under this sexual reproductive health rights that we begin to speak even to issues of persons with disabilities participating in youth safe spaces in these health facilities. So in these health facilities, we've got youth corners where youths will get to meet, discuss issues about sexual reproductive healthy services. So we realized that persons with disabilities were not actually part and parcel of these services. So what we did is we formed the explicit groups where persons with disabilities get to meet on their own first, discuss the challenges they have in terms of sexual reproductive healthy services and rights, and then when they discuss, we get to help them move from that explicit group to join the mainstream, so that they can now begin to bond and comprehend what is going on, and also try to merge their issues together with the other issues. But also suffice for me to mention that at Zafford, we work we follow the CBID matrix, that is community-based inclusive development matrix, which looks at 5 elements, and under each element there are 5 components. Number 1, we look at the education aspect, we look at the healthy aspect, we look at the livelihood, we look at the social aspect of a human being, as well as the empowerment. So the issue you're discussing of a love relationship falls under the social aspect of a human being. So we get to communities also to discuss the social aspect of these persons with disabilities. We share and raise awareness in communities to say even persons with disabilities are sexual beings. Sometimes a person without a disability would want to marry a person with a disability. You take your partner to your parents for introduction, then they tell you, does it mean you do not have choices? Does it mean women are done? Does it mean men are done? So there are those issues that we've had. So like I said, as part of the documentaries that we've had, there are some documentaries where we've seen, for example, I mentioned John Chitty. John Chitty is a person with albinism, but married a person without albinism, and they are living happily together. No child has albinism. Those are things that we are discussing. There are ladies, for example, with albinism who initially, because of the myths, people said if you have intercourse with a person with albinism, you're infected with HIV. You have intercourse with a person with albinism, you get cured of that condition. So people have forced themselves into persons with albinism. They impregnate that girl. The girl delivers a child without albinism. So we've had those stories, but really, as Zafford, we are trying to change. It's basically around attitude change, and attitude change is bordered on the cultural aspect.
Finally, let me find out from you, what would be your word to persons with disability that want to get into entrepreneurship? into business, what advice would you give them? Finally.
So, as my final comment to persons with disabilities getting into entrepreneurship, getting into a sorts of productive activities. First and foremost, there are a number of challenges that people with disabilities may face, especially in business. I'll again use a person with albinism as an example. So there are moments where if one without albinism is selling the same product as a person with albinism, put them in the same location, chances are that a customer is going to buy from a person without albinism. Those are just some cultural, makeups that we've had. They are instilled in us. But what I want to mention is that I usually say value attracts value. What a person with a disability should do is first to realize that they are valuable, they are human beings, and they should dwell more and improve their value. Let them improve on their value. Let them not demean themselves by begging, but let them stand up and say, I can do it. We've seen a number of people that have done it. Persons with disabilities are doing good. Sometimes you look at them and you're asking yourself, is this a person with a disability really? Personally, I've seen persons with disabilities that have studied more, and I get to wonder, how come they know all these articles in the Constitution, look at the documents they understand, and me with everything in place, I do not understand these things. So first and foremost, understand that value attracts value. Keep your self-esteem high. Do not lower your self-esteem. Keep your head up and tell yourself you can do it. It doesn't matter how you can do it. Struggles are there, but like scripture says, the righteous who fall into a lot of issues, but the Lord will deliver them from them all. That is what is there. So troubles are there. It doesn't mean when you do this advocacy, you're not going to meet troubles. It doesn't mean if you work with Bishop, you're not going to meet troubles. Troubles will be there, but definitely you'll succeed. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Stephen. It's been amazing. It's been incredible. The final part of this show, we call it the freestyle segment. The freestyle segment is when I allow my guests to do anything freestyle. They can sing, they can dance, they can recite a poem, they can do anything freestyle. Stephen, you have educated us, you have inspired us, you have motivated us. Now freestyle. What would you do for us?
So I'm going to do a very short song in my local language, but I think I'll just share one or two things about what the song says.
Okay.
Yes, so here is how my song goes. Akankatenge mwamona mfwele nipalya pena po munsanga ndeshitisha mabwe na masuku emolesa ampalila limonda finwa nokukwanisha lelo lesa la nsunga ililaya mwamona mfwele nipalya pena po munsanga ndeshitisha malasha nefishimu emolesa ampalila limonda filwa nokukwanisha lelo lesa la nsunga ngana luba kumeso yenu nishina fishupa kunganda ndefwaya kwesha kusonkela nesha kulisha bana limonda filwa nokukwanisha lelo lesa la nsunga. Okay, so maybe just to make mention of what the song talks about. So the song says, when I say ilaya mwamona mfwele, I mean this shirt that you see me wearing is simply exactly where you usually find me, where I sell stones, I sell caterpillars, I sell all sorts of mine, I sell charcoal. That is the same money I use to buy what I am putting on. Sometimes I fail, but God sustains me.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Stephen.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Well, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this has been Stephen Jethro Piri, all the way from Zambia. He has done so well for us. He has educated us, enlightened us, motivated us, and inspired us. Stephen, thank you so much for your time. We'll definitely be in touch with you. Thank you to DV Unlimited Company Limited, Fast Teach Apple, my proud sponsors, and thank you to all those who tuned in to this program. We are so grateful. This is the Helping Hand TV show. We'll come your way again next week. Until then, remember that disability is not inability. Take good care of yourself, and God richly bless you.